Loneliness sucks, especially the sort that comes post-breakup. There's a famous stat that gets passed around about how loneliness shortens your lifespan as much as smoking 15 cigarettes per day. Now, I always thought that it's pretty ridiculous how they calculate these factoids, but the point remains, loneliness is unhealthy, both physically and mentally. It first of all raises the risk of anxiety and depression, and it also harms your physical health. Studies find that, for example, people who are lonely or who experience a lot of loneliness also experience more heart disease, higher blood pressure, and weaker immune systems. Thankfully, however, there are things you can do as an individual to help you feel less lonely individually. And here are a few evidence-based principles, well, to help you with that, to help you feel less alone in this cold, cold world. Starting with principle number 1, lean on your support system. Since we, as humans, are social animals, and we live and thrive in communities, not in isolation, a support system is a must-have. Now, a support system is essentially a group of friends, family members, and peers that you trust and you feel safe with, and who will actively listen to your concerns and give heartfelt advice and consistent, support, even when you're being a dickhead or when you're wallowing in your own self-pity. As for how to lean on this support system, it's pretty simple. Hang out with your people more than usual. And that's pretty much it. As for principle number 2, it's all about leveraging breakup recovery groups. The bigger, more participatory and active a certain group is, the better. And you can also look for groups that aren't maybe breakup recovery focused, but they can also be groups, for example, for helping people deal with grief or helping people deal with codependency. That's all fair game as well. And I want you to look especially for groups that incorporate some activities, like dancing, hiking, swimming, or gymnastics, in addition to just discussions, because those are proven to help you feel less alone faster than groups where everyone just sits around and, does nothing. Now, I understand you might not be lucky enough to stumble upon a real-life group of recovering breakup survivors or something similar, but don't worry, because online groups work just as well. Just note that it's way more therapeutic if you participate in group discussions as opposed to just sticking to one-on-one interactions. Anyhow, principle number 3, which kind of ties back to our last principle, improve your social skills, because social skills allow us to build deep emotional connections with other people, connections that can then gradually evolve into these really meaningful friendships. And then those meaningful friendships, they help you be less lonely. Really simple as that. Now, to improve your social skills, I want you to follow for a start the next 3 steps. First, I want you to practice making eye contact with strangers, then add a smile, and finally incorporate a greeting until you're comfortable with that fully. Next, I want you to ask strangers for advice or opinions on simple topics like clothes or your surroundings, and starting with market clerks is best if you're shy with this. And finally, the last step is to just engage in small talk about casual topics like entertainment or the weather, and when comfortable, you can even add humor and some clever remarks to the conversation, which can be held with people from your recovery group, from just random strangers you meet when you're, let's say, walking through a mall or something like that, or when you're in a library, or when you're going to a stroll in the park, stuff like that, okay? Just have these principles in mind. It's really simple. Start from just looking people in the eyes when they pass you by to having then ultimately full-blown small talk with them. And of course, feel free to skip the steps that seem too easy, or maybe skip this entire process already if you're socially adept. And once you get the basics in order, our next principle is all about being vulnerable. So dare to be vulnerable. That's going to be principle number 4, which, by the way, refers to your ability to open up, speak your mind, and just share things about yourself and your life, even when it feels uncomfortable. Now, I suggest you start small by sharing something personal with someone close that you trust, whether it's a fear, a struggle, or even a dream. Notice how it feels to be open and honest, and please recognize that vulnerability, it's not a weakness, it's actually a strength. It makes you way more attractive, and it makes you just someone who is a good friend, a much better friend than a person who would be closed off all the time. Now, once you do that, I want you to do the same with strangers or semi-strangers in your life. So open up, even if it feels awkward or embarrassing, because look, the right people, your current or potential friends, they will stay right with you, regardless, and accept you. And those who don't, well, you don't want to deal with them anyways, right? They're just not perhaps a good fit for you. Just remember that vulnerability doesn't mean pouring your heart out. It doesn't mean excessive venting, because this is something that trips a lot of people up, right? They go on this 2-hour-long rant about how their ex is a horrible, horrible person, and then they come to me and they say, hey, I was vulnerable. Why doesn't anyone like me? And it's because, yes, you were vulnerable, but you were vulnerable in an unhealthy way, okay? It's not vulnerability, it's just saying something, being unattached to the outcome, saying it casually, honestly, but not venting, not whining, not going on these long monologues and rampages about other people or the events in your life or whatever's bugging you. So just be very clear about that distinction. Try to notice it pretty soon, I guess. So just be very aware of that distinction. You don't want to get into the realm of unhealthy vulnerability, okay? Because the unhealthy vulnerability, it's just gonna push people away from you. Anyhow, principle number 5 is to have the right intentions. Here's the thing. Many people, they approach other people that they want to foster or strengthen a connection with. They approach them with these really weird intentions of, for example, right? Instead of thinking, how can I help them? How can I have fun with others? How can I have fun with this other person? What they think is, and this is especially the case for people who join breakup recovery groups and similar groups like that, they think, how can I get others to help me or to entertain me? And here's why this kind of mentality sucks. By focusing only on yourself and what you want, you are missing out on this really cool opportunity to connect with other people. And if you fail to connect with them, you also fail to overcome some of your loneliness, because it just feels different when you connect with a person on some deep level. So again, I want you to focus on being of service, of being a good friend, because that's what will then start reciprocity between you and the other person, or plural, so the other people that you're talking to, that you are hanging out with. And that will help actually get all of you guys closer emotionally, and bam, you're gonna feel less lonely as a result. Anyhow, principle 6 is to keep perspective in mind. Here's the theory behind this one. Every emotion, including loneliness, it fades away in time. And sure, it's way quicker in this fading process when you're proactively working towards overcoming it. But even if you don't do anything special, even if you literally don't do anything to overcome your loneliness, it still withers away on its own quite often. So I wouldn't stress about speeding up this process too much. Emphasis on too much. That said, be careful not to slow down the whole process by, for example, doing these really common post-breakup mistakes like stalking your ex, obsessing about them all the time, never going out of your room, neglecting self-care, or begging your ex to come back. Like, these are just some common mistakes that people do that really, well, they make them feel more lonely. They don't speed up this process of overcoming loneliness, it just slows it down and slows it down. So just something to, keep in mind. But anyhow, let's go finally to principle 7, the last principle. Learn to enjoy the solitude. Now, this is really paradoxical. It's very unorthodox. And I get it. But being alone with yourself can actually be a good thing. That's ultimately what I'm saying here. Granted, you bend your perspective the right way. And this is absolutely critical here, okay? So, what do I mean? I mean, you can think of solitude, of being alone, maybe right now in your room or something. You can think of solitude as something scary, something shitty, something you should avoid, like this painful source of loneliness, right? Or you could think about it as a really cool opportunity for personal growth, an enlightening time of healing and reflection, per se. Put another way, you could try and neurotically fend off loneliness, or you could embrace and learn from it instead. I suggest, obviously, adopt the second perspective. Change how you perceive solitude for the better, and you will see your loneliness losing its grip over you pretty damn soon. So that's it from my side. If you want to go deeper into breakup recovery, if you want to learn how to not obsess over your ex so much and how to feel like yourself again, you should download my recovery cheat sheet available for download below this video. There's like a link to it. It's going to take you to the cheat sheet. And it's a bunch of tips, additional tips and principles on essentially breakup recovery. It's a really cute one-page PDF document that you can get access to. So if you'd like to get deeper into my breakup recovery stuff, that's where you should be headed next. But in any case, take care, thanks for watching, and bye-bye.